What's going on with Brian Mbeumo? Because I was just asking Sebastian Bass on there whether he'd like to see him at Tottenham, but Manchester United seem to be in the driving seat.
At the moment, it feels like he's headed to Old Trafford. We know that there were a number of sides that were interested in Brian Mbeumo. His record since joining Brentford in 2019 has been phenomenal. He's just coming off the back of his best ever season with regards to goals and assists. He's a key part of that Brentford side. But once again, his contract is running down. Hence why Manchester United are seeing this as an opportunity. We know that there is interest from Tottenham as well. We know that there were other sides in the Premier League that were keen on Mbeumo, but it looks like he's heading to Old Trafford. They're just preparing a second offer, which they're hoping will get the player.
Who remains a candidate for Liverpool striker position, a player they appreciate, and I keep repeating to you that they are in contact with the agents of the player. So it's going to be for sure an interesting story to follow in this summer transfer window. Then guys, there is more to say also on Jadon Sancho, because for Jadon Sancho there are also movements taking place. Manchester United have been clear with the player. They will try to sell him in this first part of the summer transfer window. So if they find a permanent transfer proposal, for Man United is the best solution, and also for the player to part ways on a permanent transfer. At the moment, still nothing concrete in terms of advanced negotiations. Interest from Napoli, but Napoli don't want to cover the whole salary of Jadon Sancho, and Napoli don't want to cover the whole salary even in case they sign him on a permanent transfer. So the transfer fee would not be a problem for Napoli, but the salary is too high. So or Man United accept Napoli conditions maybe later in the window, or Jadon Sancho has to accept a different salary to join Napoli. Otherwise, it's going to be a different club. So we're going to see what's going to happen with this case, but the expectation remains for Jadon Sancho to leave Manchester United in this summer transfer window after Chelsea decided not to activate the option to keep the player at the club at the beginning of the summer transfer window. Busy hours also for Chelsea. We mentioned Chelsea for this Jadon Sancho story.
What about Jadon Sancho? A lot of interest in Italy.
Yeah, Jadon Sancho's got interest in Italy. The latest suitor are Juventus, who have made exploratory calls to understand the terms of the deal. I think with Sancho, the tough part is that there were Chelsea, who basically offered him their part of the wage coverage, which was his full Manchester United wage minus about £120,000 a week. And there was no agreement on terms. The wage is going to be a problem. And if Chelsea can't get Sancho to come down to that 150 or so mark, then Italian suitors are going to have a similar problem. And I suspect that Manchester United right now will be saying that all of these potential outgoings, your Rashfords, your Antonys, your Sanchos, your Garnachos, will all be permanent exits with relatively high prices. But as the window goes along, if they can bring in one, particularly Garnacho, and get that pure profit, then maybe there's a little bit of flexibility on structure. And I think if Sancho's to go to Italy, it might have to be a loan with an option or an obligation. And right now, Manchester United not entertaining that. They're in a strong position, plenty of time of the window to go. But as it ticks along, and if they can bring in that one big fee to allow them to move for a number 9, maybe suitors with Sancho might be able to find a more preferable deal. So we might have to be patient to resolve the future of Jadon Sancho. And it'll be interesting, therefore, if he is part of Manchester United's full pre-season before his future is resolved.
So around Manchester United, there's going to be a lot of definitely maybes then. But what'll happen, Ben, is, you know, when teams are looking from the outside, and you mentioned about the wages, the teams will just wait and wait and wait until the end of coming to the end of the transfer window, because they'll want to take them on loan and do a deal with Manchester United where Manchester United pays some of the wages and the team that take them on loan pay the wages.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And I think the Antony model is what most clubs look at, or the Rashford loan to Aston Villa, where you get a try before you buy, you get an option to buy, and then you see what you have at the end of the season and if you can afford it. Manchester United don't want to give those kind of deals now. Garnacho's 60 million, Rashford is 40 million, Antony is permanent, not another loan. But I suspect that once they bring in that one big fee, likely Garnacho or Rashford, and Garnacho's the kind of pure profit, then some of these other names, it may be beneficial for Manchester United to get the wage off the books. So I wouldn't discount Antony going back to Betis on loan with another option to buy. But first, they want to resolve other futures, because they can't give everyone a loan. Rasmus Højlund is a book loss if it's a permanent exit. So a loan is very likely there if he's to depart. And Italy is a very viable destination. But Manchester United need to know that they can bring someone in first. So I think if you were ranking those outgoings, the Garnacho one is the one they really want to do early, because it's is pure profit. They want 60 million. Even if they got 50 odd million, you could push that towards a big name striker, then resolve the rest of these players, some of which might have to go out on loan, because it's a high price for Rashford when you think about the wage. The same can be said for Sancho as well. The only caveat to Sancho is that option to buy at Chelsea was up to a maximum of 25 million. That's not a bad price. So it will be interesting to see if they stick to that asking price, whether someone takes a gamble on a lower fee than maybe Sancho was 12 months ago, but then they'll still have to pay the high wage.
Interesting.
They definitely want to sell Marcus Rashford rather than loan him. But obviously, that if they get towards the end of the window again and there's no hard interest in a sale, they're going to have to try and shift somebody whose wages are north of 300 grand off the wage bill, or at least get somebody else to pay part of it, which is what happened with Villa at the end of last season. Villa aren't in the financial position, and obviously didn't get in the Champions League to buy him. Newcastle would be in the financial position to go near him, either on loan or buy him, if, as we mentioned before, Anthony Gordon was to go and potentially go to Liverpool. That could free up that left wing berth again.
Also, they've linked with Grealish as well. It's like a Grealish or Rashford, very different types.
We
of
could
players.
end up with quite a transfer merry-go-round as well.
Exactly,
There's another Sun transfer window, ding ding ding, Sun bingo phrase for you there. We've had Saga, now we've had merry-go-round. But yeah, and there's an interesting one to happen with United, because they go on tour. I think it's to Sweden next month, and Amarim's not messing around.
No,
so it could be. We're not quite there with nailing the story yet, but I'd be surprised if Rashford, Garnacho, obviously Anthony, and then there's Jadon Sancho to think about as well. There could be 4 players who don't go on that tour, and that's 4 huge assets worth a lot of money. And in a squad reshuffle at Man United, these are the 4 in the shop window, and if they could shift those 4, let's say, for an average of 40 million each, you might get a bit more for Rashford, or a bit less for Anthony, or vice versa.
United fans would be going, "What are you talking about? They're worth more than that." But they're only worth as much as someone's willing to pay.
Absolutely, and they're not. And if you're talking about Jack Grealish for 40 odd million in this transfer window, then these players are in that bracket as well. And obviously
contract length.
Garnacho and Rashford are obviously pure profit because they're academy players, so they are Manchester United's priority first to get rid of, because that frees them up in the transfer window. Look, if they shift Rashford fairly quickly, and then a Sancho or Garnacho as well, they're back in the market for the likes of a Gyökeres if Arsenal don't go there, because then they've got the funds to do it. At the moment, they're treading this Jim Ratcliffe, players only barbecue tightrope of money, where they haven't really got enough for more than a sausage, and then it's but if they start to move those players on, so I think they'll force the hand of the players and the agents in the next couple of weeks, Man United, and therefore, guys, get yourself another club, because you're not wanted here.
No, quite. It's a wild situation, isn't it? Where now Anthony is the most valuable of those 4. He's gone to Real Betis, absolutely tore it up. Unlikely, almost certain that they won't be able to afford a permanent transfer.
Well, they have looked previously at doing like not a part ownership, but sort of like almost a part exchange. You're not quite allowed to do that anymore. But you can certainly pay. I think they were talking about somewhere in the region of 20 million euros up front, and then the rest of it in a structured deal. So
over the next 20 years.
But I mean, from a Man United point of view, if the manager's saying no, don't want him at all, and nobody else is interested, his value on the balance sheet is actually 0 or a minus, in fact. Whereas if they get rid of him for 20 million, get his wages will be tidy close to 200,000 a week.
They'll be in line with the 85 million they paid for him.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, get rid and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're Newcastle, then Dino, first of all, very quickly, Grealish or Rashford?
Oh, that's tough.
Given how they play with
Gordon, I think it's probably Rashford. And we saw some flashes from Rashford at Villa. So yeah, but why not both? They're in the Champions League. Take both lads. Play Grealish at 10 and play Rashford on the left when you don't want Gordon.
Enables them to be flexible as well. Another one.
Manchester United's Marcus Rashford has said he would like to join Barcelona this summer and play with Lamine Yamal. Rashford is seeking a move away from Old Trafford and has been linked with a move to Camp Nou, although Barcelona are reportedly trying to sign Nico Williams from Athletic Club. Rashford spent the second half of last season on loan at Aston Villa after being frozen out by head coach Ruben Amorim and has now gone public with his desire to make the move to Spain. "Of course I'd love to," he said in an interview with Spanish influencer Javi Ruiz when asked about the possibility of joining Barcelona and playing with teenage sensation Yamal. "Everyone wants to play with the best. Hopefully, we'll see. Spain is nice, and it's not too far from home," he added. "If I train here for an extended period, it's great because my family can come visit for a few days. It's just a 3-hour flight. The weather's good here too."